Hello and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and I'm back this week with a brand new podcast on a brand new subject. This week, I'm speaking about the Big Lez Show. And for those who don't know about the Big Lez Show, you may be saying, "What are you talking to me?
What are you talking to me?"
And I will say, the show itself is probably one of the best parts of the internet, where freedom of artistry and design and just imagination runs wild. It's also one of the best shows to watch in state of highness, shall we say.
You fucking drugger.
And it's also one of those shows that I hold as a genius. It's made by Jared and the lads based in Australia. The show itself depicts like multiple different characters within a small town in Australia in the middle of nowhere, where they get on a bunch of adventures through drugs, alcohol, shenanigans, and the show itself is brilliant because it just takes something as silly as like Sasquatches and whatever Clarence is, to like Mark Nolan, who is just like a postman / cashier who is in the middle of like this small town and happens to be able to keep up with the drug addicted Sasquatches, and just is just as cool as Big Lez. Big Lez, the main character, being Leslie Mackerel, who has just like happens to come from outer space, from a planet called Kingdom Come, or Kingdom Comians, as they come from. Like the names and the like backstories behind these characters are hilarious, fantastic. The like some of the backstory, like some of the background characters themselves are brilliant, but we'll get into those a little bit later. Some of my favourite quotes being like, "What are you talking to me?
What are you talking to me?"
From Sassy, like, which is just put in the first episode of the show itself. And you've also got "You fucking drugger."
You fucking drugger.
Who, I remember discovering this show thanks to a friend who one of my mates on my computer science course introduced it to me back all the way in the beginning of, I want to say, either end of 2016 or the beginning of 2017. And it was just blew my mind because of how funny it was, because of how like ingenious some of the characters were. And I was just, I'll happily watch this show sober.
Fucking pussy.
A lot of people love to watch it high or drunk or whatever you want to do, but like for me personally, it's just such a fun show to watch, mainly because I love hearing the Australian accent in that sort of way. It's not native at all. That's not what people sound like, or maybe it is what certain parts of Australia sound like, and I've just not met them yet. It does remind me of a bogan I once met in the middle of nowhere in a paintballing event in like just outside, well, I want to say just outside, it was in the South Australia area, and he was like living in a caravan in like this totally outback area where apparently there were rattlesnakes, and like the only thing he had was like a paintballing center next door to him. It was just crazy, and that's what Big Lez and the lads remind me of, is just like that sort of like typical outback / crazy lifestyle. Maybe Jared and the lads didn't mean to depict it that way, but it's hilarious. The fact that the show was made using Microsoft Paint is just the evolution from all the way from the first few episodes, where you've got Sassy and Big Lez being introduced with Norton as well in the first episode, and the difference between episode 1 and episode like season 4 episode 1 is crazy. The level going from one end to the other. Maybe I can pop up a couple of comparison pictures up here for those watching. For those listening, you're going to have to go look it up for yourself. I'll put a couple of links in the bio just so that you can go have a check. If you're listening to this on Spotify, there will be links there as well. it's so much fun. So I'm going to get into some of the characters we've already spoken about. The Sassy. Sassy is a Sasquatch who is high 24/7. There is a clip that I'll play in a second where he was not high for a total of 20 minutes, I want to say. And that 20 minutes, I'm freaking the fuck out. And he's like, and his like hair's been pulled back. So I'll play the clip now.
I remember that time you went like 20 minutes without one hit. You alright, mate?
I'm freaking out.
Oh, quick, have that, mate. How you feel?
What are you talking to me?
And as you saw in it, it's just like, it's so funny, the concept of like a Sasquatch who has to be high all the time, and the idea of like him and Donnie. Donnie is also like not the sidekick, but like one of the other main characters to the Big Lez Show, and he's first introduced when I think it wasn't until episode 11 of season 1 where they accidentally end up in Tumor Island, and I think Donnie's like with Sassy partying in the Grove area of this island, even though they're surrounded by tumors.
Sassy, what the fuck?
Liz, mate, what's going on?
Ah, Leslinos.
Sassy, what the fuck's going on? I've been waiting on the beach for so long, waiting for you to come here, and you've been here having a fucking party in the fucking jungle.
Ah, got it, I got it.
There it is.
I'm sorry, is this some fucking jungle piss-up party?
Fucking oath it is.
Tumors are like a background character. They might as well be a main character, but the story behind them is hilarious. It's like, I think one of the guys Jared hired, or Jared himself, like actually makes like that. He came up with the sounds. I can't remember what it was, but like they were just screaming at each other, just like when they were recording the show. They'd go "What?" and just like I can't even do it. Like that was a terrible interpretation, but I'll play some of the sounds now.
Fuck yeah.
And like when you listen to them, they are truly terrifying. But whoever came up with that is a genius, because like as soon as you hear the tumor sound, you're like, you're thinking tumors, where are they? Like it's just this genius idea of a background character. And the fact that the background / main characters have just as much a presence as Big Lez himself. Big Lez is Leslie Mackerel, who lives in South Australia on the seafront with his son Quincy, and Quinton, little rascal. For anyone who is Australian who's listened to this, I'm sorry. But yeah, so you got one of my favourite quotes from Big Lez. I think it was within episode 5. Quinton is giving him a present for Father's Day, and he opens up the package and he just goes, "There's 3 things I hate in this world: Norton, cats, and bubbleheads." And Quinton's giving him a bloody bubblehead for Father's Day.
3 things I hate in this world: Norton, cats, and fucking bubbleheads.
Father's Day. And it's just, all of this makes no sense without context. But when you watch the clip, you see for yourself just like the stupidity, but also the hilarity behind like the thought of a father looking after a kid, expecting that kid to come up with a really good present for Father's Day, even though he's got 0 funds. So yeah, that's one of my favorite clips. There's also Mike Nolan. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't say Mike is one of the main characters in the show, but he doesn't really become predominantly a main character until I'd say season 2. But season 1, he's sort of introduced. One of my favourite clips is where they're having a discussion, him and Les, while they're on Tumor Island in season 1, episode 11, and he smokes. and he's smoking all the time, right? And you see it throughout season 1 where he's just smoking and he's not exhaling. Like, I think you see him exhale once, and this conversation between Mike and Les is like, how he describes it is like, if you take a sip of Coke, do you spit it out afterwards in the same ratio to smoking and then exhaling? And the Big Les is like, you're going to get slapped by the hard dick of cancer. So play the clip now.
So you're telling me, when you have a smoke, you smoke the whole lot without breathing it out?
That's how you're supposed to do it.
No, it isn't. That's how you fucking die.
So you're telling me, you go to the servo, you buy a can of Coke, and you take one sip of that Coke and you spit it out. How else will that quench your thirst?
You're fucked up. How long have you been smoking for?
48 years.
And how old are you?
52.
You're gonna fucking die of lung cancer, mate. You're gonna get punched in the face by the long dick of cancer.
Oh dear, gets me every time, guys. It really does. And Mike Nolan has his own show later on, which debatably is just as good as the Big Lez Show in itself, and is hilarious in its own. I'm not going to put clips of that yet in, because I'd love to just do a full podcast just on the Mike Nolan Show, because it is just got so much depth to it, as much as Big Lez himself. But Mike Nolan, like one of those characters who just has the ability to come in, even though he's just a background character to begin with, becomes a main character and is hilarious throughout it. So yeah, big up Mike Nolan. There's also, so we've got Clarence, you potato-headed guy. He's one of these freaky alien dudes who they can't truly make out what he's made out of, or like what he is. I'm pretty sure at some point they figure out that he's immortal, basically, but if you shoot him, he still feels the pain like years later. And this idea was that Clarence is just like bullied rigorously throughout the entire show. He's just one of those characters who's really nice to everyone, but he's just an easy target, and he just gets constantly bullied. One of these clips where he's like hanging off the back of the truck as they're escaping in season 2 from the prison, and he's like saying, "Can one of you lads, like, let me into the truck, because I'm hanging off the back of the truck right now." And then you just hear Les say, "Oh, do you ever shut up?" He's still hanging off the back of the truck. Oh my god, it gets me every time. It really does.
Oh, can someone please make some room so I can squeeze in there with you guys?
Oh my god, do you ever fucking shut up, Clarence?
It's so silly. And I think when Clarence he's first introduced, he's just like, "Oh, hello, friends." And
Hello? Friends?
hello, friends. It's so sad, but it's also so, like, they're the only people in the entire town he speaks to, and they're his only friends, and they all bully him relentlessly. It's funny, but it's also really sad. It's a contradiction in itself. But yeah, Clarence is just brilliant. He's such a like, he's one of those characters, like, he becomes a main character as well in his own right, and is continuously funny throughout through, like, seeing, oh, 3 mandarins, oh,
A mandarin. 2 mandarins. 3 mandarins.
where he's literally bought a $1 scratch card from Donnie at his store, and Donnie charges him $50 for for the card, and it's so silly. Like, Clarence is just taken advantage of. But the whole premise of that episode is that, he gets 3 mandarins. Oh, 3 mandarins. And then he after he gets like a 1 million Australian dollars or whatever it is, he like loses this $1 scratchy, and this whole episode is based around Clarence like having to pay $50 for a $1 scratchy, and then getting millions of pounds, and then losing it because Sassy smokes the the winning ticket as a way to get high. Oh, just the ideas, like it's as if like a bunch of guys have got together and no one says no to any idea. They just chuck them out on a piece of paper and they just roll with it, and it's brilliant. It's that idea of having the divine child of your inner child just like jumping out of the page and just jumping onto a screen. And that's why they're so popular, because they're just genius in their own right. They are literally, if there's like an award ceremony for internet fame, they should be high up there. They should be super high up there, because the talent it takes to be able to come up with the ideas for the storyline and then also produce it and create 4 seasons of it over like something like 10 years. I think they first released it in like 2012, which is madness to think, and they've still continued it. And I think their most recent release was 2021, about a month ago. So wow, just brilliant, all round brilliant. So there's that. Oh, so you've got a couple of other characters who aren't major characters, but I still think they're brilliant. So you've got, like, I don't know his full name, I just know him as Bird or Owl. He's just like, I'm crazy,
I'm fucking crazy, I fucking...
Save your breath, you feathered fuck.
And he's not really introduced, but he's just one of the boys. And he's just like the owl who just smokes weed with the Sasquatches and Big Lez. And he's just out there. He's a fun character. You've got Warning Guy, who's, as in the name, he's the warning guy at the tower, the light tower on the edge of... I've forgotten the name of the town, which is terrible. I should know the town. But where Big Lez lives, he's in the lighthouse. And he's first introduced in season 1, where he's like, everybody get into the water.
Everyone into the water! There be a fucking shark!
Because he's Scottish for some reason. He's based in Australia. And he's like, there'll be a shark. It's so good. And he turns out to be one of the Kingdom Comians who survived Kingdom Come's explosion. And he is super strong, super strength, just like Big Lez. And we don't realise like these characters are super strong or any of this until much later on into the series, when they fight the tumours. And this is why it makes Mike Nolan's like ability to keep up with them brilliant, because he has this ability to like, he's human, he's got no special powers or anything, and yet he's still able to keep up with the lads. So genius. So you got Warning Guy, you've got Bird Person, you've got Clarence, you've got Donnie.
God, I'm freaking the fuck out.
Boy in blue, boy. Boy in blue.
What's going on?
You've got Simon Sniffcock.
Good evening, I'm Simon Sniffcock.
Like, not introduced until season 2, but he does get reoccurred a couple of times. Like, when I should play when I introduce the Taylor's Tales podcast sometime, I'll just go, hello and welcome to a Taylor's Tales podcast. This is Simon Sniffcock. What's on the scene, Donnie Sniffcock? And it's like, it's just so stupid. It's just like this idea of giving some of the characters the most ridiculous names for the stupidest jobs. Can you imagine introducing someone like that seriously on a BBC show? But yeah, genius, absolute genius. And we've got the tumours themselves, who are, like, as I've said, the noises they make, crazy. And the yellow design behind them is just, like, whoever designed them, it's like, they're terrifying themselves. They go from, like, these cute banana people to being terrifying, sharp teeth, jumping at you, being shot at, making crazy sounds. And when you're on Tumor Island, or if you're in like the Attack of the Tumors, or Tumor Island Part 2, or Tumor Island Part 3, there is a character who reoccurs throughout these places, and I call him Sick Guy, because he just repeatedly pukes up every time you see him, and he looks half dead.
Oh, yuck. Fuck.
Left my necklace in the sink. He's got my neck! He's got my neck! He broke my neck!
and he has this really weird voice where he's like, "Oh no, they've broken my neck! Oh no! Ah!" And it's just so stupid. Like, the concept behind him is this guy who's half dead, who's always puking on himself, and is always just getting killed immediately. So yeah, that's sick guy. I don't know if there's any other name for him. So yeah, those are the background characters. There's also bad guys like Bumble Brutus, Cecil the Sasquatch.
I am Cecil the Sasquatch. What?
Nothing. Cute name.
Cecil the Sasquatch is a sick name. Just like Big Lez. And it's hilarious, like, when you're introduced to some of these characters, you don't realise, like, how the main characters are throughout the entire series, but these characters are just in for one episode and they just disappear, basically. But they have a great mark on the show. And some of the other things, I spoke about superpowers. Like, I don't think it's until Attack of the Tumors we realise, like, how powerful some of the main characters are. Because, like, Les gets thrown off a building, which is hilarious in itself because of the sound he makes, which we're playing now.
Oh my god!
And you don't realise how powerful he is, because like, he just gets thrown off a building and he just, like, whatever, just the dust off the shoulders, and he's just, like, ready to go again. Or he, like, jumps onto a tumor pterodactyl thing and then he flies off. It's just, yeah, I mean, madness, absolute madness. So yes, there's all those things, all those characters, and I've spoken about season 1 and 2. Season 3 is genius as well, where you've got season 1 where you just introduced to the characters. Season 2, you get into a little bit of, like, oh, we've got to do something about the tumours, and you have, like, Attack of the Tumors, where they come to the main area of Browntown. That's it, got it, Browntown, remembered it now. So Les and the boys live in Browntown, which, like, the names, as I said, they're pretty mad. And from Browntown, you've got like, they have all the tumours, like, fill up, like, crazy dinosaurs, like, killing everybody, destroying everything, and the boys, like, just attack them and go after them. And then in season 3, after they've, like, semi-defeated the tumours, they have to go back to Tumor Island to try and stop them. And it's like the introduction to, oh, me and the boys are going to get together and do some sick cunt jobs. And I love how they throw that around. Like, in the UK, like, if you use the C word, like, if you use cunt, it's, like, super rude. But if you say it in Australia, like, well, it's probably still rude in Australia, but, like, the use of it is just hilarious. So funny. So, as I said, they the madness of the build, of going from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, where there's just build-ups to the tumours. And one of my favourite clips is where in season 2, I want to say, they've flown back to Kingdom Come to find that it's been blown up. And there's 2 little clips. There's a reference to Star Wars in one of them, where as they're approaching it, Warning Guy becomes Obi-Wan Kenobi, basically, and he says, "That's no moon." And it's...
Guys, we're heading towards some sort of fucking moon. That's not a moon. Now Warning Guy's quoting Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's so good. And you've also got where they run out of petrol / Tripper Snipper juice, which Tripper Snipper episode in itself is brilliant. The Tripper Snipper is what Sassy's created, his Sassy Foods, where it's made out of heroin, petrol, marijuana, herbs and spices, some lemon chicken, and then, like, 50 other different drugs put into one. And they realise, like, Sassy Foods, like, it's toxic to anyone who's human, but it's actually used as fuel for the spaceship that they get to Kingdom Come. And they run out of fuel, and you have this brilliant section where Sassy's like, I'm cooking the herbs and spices. I'm running out of herbs and spices. I'm cooking my Sassy Foods as quick as possible.
Well, I'm cooking as fast as I can. I'll cook harder. I'm running low on herbs and spices. Fuck.
And it's so good, because they're trying to head back to Earth after they realise, like, Kingdom Come's been totally destroyed. And yeah, so as you can see, like they've designed it really well, where they've gone from season 1 where things are just being introduced, season 2 where they're getting more information and they're building characters up, and they head to back to town and they have the attack of the tumors, and then you've got season 3 where they're trying to understand how to destroy the tumors, and somehow Les gets locked up and sent to prison, which is hilarious as well, and they become basically the from Shawshank Redemption. So yeah, there's that, and some of my favourite noises I've made. I know noises a little bit strange, but this show has created where I would see my mates and we go at each other, and I would shout as well. And you may be thinking, Chris, that's mental, but some of these clips inspired that, like this one where Les is having a shout off with a crow, and it's so funny in itself. Is like that noise sticks in my mind, where you just think to yourself, like, that's hilarious, just the noise in itself being said, and him having a, you know, being king of the jungle with a crow and making, yeah, this is my land, my house. And then there's also where I think Les walks into Quinton having smoked marijuana for the first time, and he's like, do I smell marijuana?
I smell marijuana.
And I just go, every time you're with a mate and you do smell weed, you're like, marijuana. Oh, and it's referring to stuff like this, references like this, that make me smile. And like I've said many a time, the silliness of it is just bang, 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 one after another. So many quotes that you can just throw in time and time again. Oh, mate, non-stop hilarity, just killing it. There's also $70. $70.
$70. That's a slab of piss and a pack of Winnie Blues. Get the boys round. Have a good night. Get some bitches over.
I could buy that and a pack of Winnie Blues. Get the bitches round. And then Quentin going, you haven't got any bitches, Les. Yeah, well, you haven't got a game box either. It's quotes like that, like when somebody like says something to you and you're like, oh, that's well expensive. It's just brilliant. You just bring up $70. $70. It's just, oh, just these quotes. And then you've also got, I've said 3 mandarins. 3 mandarins.
Oh, a mandarin. 2 mandarins. Oh, 3 mandarins.
You've also got, popcorn.
Oh, you should have got some popcorn like me.
Popcorn, like if you're at the cinema with your mates and somebody buys popcorn and you don't say, oh, can I have some popcorn? And they just look at you and they don't understand the reference.
I've never heard of that word in my entire life, mate.
Just like, oh no, they're not a fan of Big Lez, because there's a scene where Les is tripping out because he's just had a heroin brownie.
Heroin. Did we get Wayno's heroin?
And the brownie is like making him trip through reality. And Sassy has to explain to him that it's not popcorn that he's eating, it's popcorn. And like Les does the scene where he's trying to get him to say popcorn rather than popcorn. And again, like the idea behind that is just, obviously they've tripped out and just come out with some crazy ideas along the way. You've also got Sassy explain to the lads about how like the government's gonna sell weed legally for everybody, and the munchies that people get off the weed is going to create more funds for the government and create greater taxes. And they're all like, well, what do you mean, mate? Why do you think they're going to have all these taxes? And he's like, I don't know, but I think it's got something to do with the pyramids.
I don't know, but I think it's got something to do with the pyramids.
And it's relating to obviously the Illuminati, and it's as if Sassy has like this insider information throughout the entire show, that he knows what's going on, and I think he's aware that he's in a show, and therefore he just has like this inside information into like the Illuminati and what's going on in the world. Madness. Oh, another classic is within that. So within this one episode of Quentin smoking weed, there's so many good quotes, and you'll always have your mates, like if you don't do something, and for instance, if I'm rock climbing with my mates, or if I'm skateboarding or something like that, and you can't do a trick, or you can't do or you say you can't do something, they'll say fucking pussy.
Fucking pussy.
And obviously you can say the normal fucking pussy, mate, but it doesn't sound nearly as funny coming from Donnie when you're saying it in the Aussie accent, and it's 10 times better because it's said out of a place of love as well, because it's brilliant. And the show itself, like I've said many a time, season 1 to 3 have so many good quotes, and throwing Clarence out of windows, we'll end the podcast here on one of my favourite clips of Clarence, where they introduce the backstory behind Clarence. And Clarence turns out to be like a special scientist who is like on a mission to basically try and create this brand new experiment. I don't know what it is, but it creates the tumours, and he creates the tumours, and by putting his blood in the tumour mix, he basically it explodes in his face, and he becomes this potato-headed weird thing.
Glazo, you fucking potato-headed looking druggo, what's going on?
And he then looks at his assistant and goes, "You still want to go on that hot date?" And they just go, "Get out of here, take your bloody science with you." And they chuck him in I want to say a spaceship cell, and it just like blows off into space. And that's his backstory, and just the sequence that you'll see now.
Hey, Noose, still want to go on that hot date?
What the fuck is that? Chuck it in the fucking emergency shuttle! Fuck in there, mate! And take your fucking research with you! Fucking clicker jack! Fuck!
Is brilliant in how they've created it. It's so funny, and the screaming behind it, take your science with you, is absolutely fantastic. And I love every scene that they've come up with. All the stuff I've spoken to merely scratches the surface of the Big Lez Show. But I loved the research behind seasons 1, 2, and 3. I'm sure I'm going to find stuff later. I'm going to tackle season 4 on its own. I'm going to tackle the Mike Nolan show on its own. And I think that there's more to get from seasons 1, 2, and 3. I've just scratched the surface. But I wanted to make a nice little short podcast on the Big Lez Show. As I've said before, I love to make this podcast about random silly things. This is a brand new topic that I thought would be fun to tackle, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've had fun making it and talking about it. So, this has been a Taylor's Tales podcast. This has been Chris's Corner. I'm your host, Chris Taylor, and as always, I'll see you next time.
You fucking drugger.